On the occasion of our annual town fair, you can hear in the background, people are falling, obviously. Disaster. What is going on? Our annual town fair. The Shriners just had their little do coming down with their weird horns and music and bang-alongs and percussions. And yeah, I thought I'd part one. Like I always do, I hammer on stuff that I really think is important. It's not just like Kandinsky said about art. Art for art's sake is just pure decoration. I'm not interested in decoration, and I think that there are moments in life where you relax, you sit back, and you enjoy something. But I think ultimately, the time that we have available to us, that we're alive, I think it's very important to exercise. Here's how I see it. It's actually an exercise of gratitude to be able to garner something out of this experience that we can pass on, or that we can have some effect, because we are alive. We have been here. We are alive. That there is something that comes out of this, that I guess basically when we die, when we're gone, that in those last moments or in that period, we say to ourselves, I did good. I did all right. I did the best I could, and I made sure that I leave the place better, that I've done that. Not to enrich myself or my cronies or my clan, has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that we exercise our ability to be ourselves to the fullest. And I think this is what will ultimately allow us to survive. And there seems to be almost a consensus among the esoteric side, or even just knowledgeable people, intelligent people, that civilization is not linear, but it's cyclical. That this has happened many times before. And what's disturbing to me is that if something has happened that is similar to this experience that we have, called civilization, like Gandhi says, it would be a good idea, is something that has occurred before. Now, why would it have ended? Why would it have stopped? And my thought is that there's a few possibilities. Yes, danger. Will Robinson, danger. And I think if it's true that we repeat things, history is repeated. When the saying goes, if you don't know history, you'll repeat it. And I think that there is a conception that we have done this many times, several times, or once before, that we have come to a point where literally our survival is at stake. We are threatened. And we are not threatened from outside, as in a meteor, could be, may have happened, or a cataclysmic event on the planet that creates a huge wave and it sweeps over everything. But this is a man-made event, this extinction event, the sixth, what they call the sixth extinction event. It's hard to say, sixth extinction event that we're experiencing right now. And it's tied to cycles, sun cycles. But more importantly, what this one is tied to unequivocally is the age of fission, which started in 1938 when two scientists invented nuclear fission and produced an isotope, an atom called plutonium, plutonium-94 on the periodic element. It didn't exist before, like thousands of other exotic isotopes that don't exist. And this has propelled us into a stage of our development that is now unlikely, like many times before possibly, to end. This development will come to an end. And what I feel personally about this, I mean, I feel totally outraged by the idea that something that we have created as humankind that could possibly end this, what people, I don't like calling it an experiment because it makes it so dysfunctional, like it's separate from me. This is a gift. This is something that we have as a gift. We're kissing off on this thing that we call life and all life around us. It's not an experiment. It is a privilege to be part of this, and not to see this is completely missing the point. It's missing the point. Not to understand that this is so profound, this mystery that we're a part of in an everyday sense, to get so focused in the hyperdrive of progress and be so hijacked from our inner self, what it is that's important. Like, we look at ourselves and people, I look down at the Forest Fair and they exemplify the progress of the town. They have their fancy fire engine, terrific, puts out fires. And then if you think about progress and you see everything connected to it through the medical institution or through political institutions or any social institution, everything that is built around us seems to all be influenced by this concept that we know we're getting better as people if we have fabulous gadgets and technology that can do amazing stuff to somebody with a club in their hand. That if you take an F-16 fighter into the cave ages, you're going to decimate those bastards with the clubs. But this is not progress. It's not progress. It's not how it works. And when we engage in activities that rely on our creativity, the part in us that is actually connected to this mystery in some way, because it's inexplicable why we are able to do the things that we do. Yes, you can say, if you're a realist painter and you study and you reproduce the world in a realistic way like a photograph, or if you're a person called Cézanne and you revolutionize the idea of putting paint on a surface in a way that has never been conceived of before, or even Kandinsky or Picasso, Cubism, and you have all the different, and the abilities that come forward as people are allowed to let this creativity rise, often in spite of themselves. My dissertation today is about survival. And it's our survival from the point of view that we did not appear to have the ability to cause a complete and total destruction the way we have now. I mean, the Mayans built their city on the bottom of a mountain, cut down all the trees, the rains came, and the city of 1 million or 2 million people was completely wiped out by the mud that came down the mountain. But that's only one city. It's only one part of the population. It's not everything. It's not all the sea life in the Pacific being attacked. And what it is that we face, and its origin, what I believe to be its origin, the dysfunction, the origin of this dysfunction goes back, interestingly, in my mind, to an era that we call in Egyptology a dynasty. I think it was the 18th or 19th dynasty in Egypt, under a ruler called Homontek or something. He called himself Akhenaten. Nefertiti was his wife, some hot chick he had, 6 kids. And he decided to depart from the Amun-Ra, the concept of ruler and God have a relationship. But Akhenaten figured out, why do I bother with a God if I can be the total thing? I am the God. I am the ruler and the God. Not like a mediary between the Almighty Being and myself. I am the Almighty Being, the Anointed One. The idea, the Akhenaten idea, is the divine right of kings that everything is based on. Atenism. This is something that is still insidiously implanted in our society on all levels. It rules. It goes through everything. It goes beyond all religions: Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism. Atenism is the root of the deception that has basically brought us to where we're at. And here's what I say. I'm going to say it again. What it is. It's not the fact that these types have all the power, can do whatever the hell they want. We have been systematically, we have given up the most precious part of us to the ideas that have been implanted in our brains for thousands of years that, number one, we don't matter. Ultimately, we don't matter. If there is a divine ruler that is the omnipotent being on this planet, they probably won't go that far right now because we don't have like a pharaoh type, or maybe we do. I just don't know who it is in the background. Maybe they're sitting in the background, but certainly not in a demonstrative way. We don't have this pharaoh type. But here's what's happened, and here's why we're in the shitter that we're in. We're in a desperate state. The human race and all of life is in a desperate state because what has occurred is that we have accepted that we're of no value. Now, people say, oh, no, I love myself. I do everything for myself. Well, yeah, we do things that are not good for our personal, I mean, we're overweight, or we take drugs, or we accept toxifying our bodies. It's okay. Ultimately, all that destruction means that we have no regard for ourselves. No matter what we say or whatever we conjure up or whatever we do for ourselves that is so wonderful and terrific, whatever exercises you do, ultimately, to buy into this destruction on any level means we have no self-regard. We do not regard people, ourselves, to be of any value. And this is what was implanted in our brains, in our minds, by these holier-than-thou, Akhenaten types. Continue to be that you're of no value if you have no money, for example. Well, where did that ever come from? That if you don't have money, you're of no value to anyone. Do you know what the absolute strength and power in each individual is to whatever their personal expertise is and contribution that they can make to the well-being of someone else around? Has nothing to do with money or wealth, or having a direct line to the omnipotent being, or even being the omnipotent being. This has all been implanted to a self-loathing starts to take over because we create images of ourselves by accumulating wealth, by externalizing this battle. This battle, what I say, is the inner fight that has been lost, and it's being lost monumentally, like at no other time before, or at least it feels like no other time before, because now we're actually facing the destruction of all life through nuclearism. The nuclear criminal syndicate has taken it upon themselves. They are the Atenists. They are the ones that are now deciding on life and death, life and death, life and death, life and death. And they can do it because we have lost our self-respect. We no longer respect the power that is within each one of us. We have given up on that which makes us whole, which makes us valuable. And the most important part that I've been going on about, and I'll hammer again, is our ability to care. It's not that we're conscious. It's not a matter of consciousness like the esoterics like to engulf everything in consciousness. I've said this before. It's actually something that is within inside of us that is so extraordinary to give of ourselves to the point where what I call conscience, to start to feel that there is no point in acting unless my act is for the well-being, certainly for myself and those around me, and maybe even others before me, like a mother and her child. She will do anything to defend and save her child. And this is something that I think has been extracted, this fundamental part, and we're facing down the most serious event in the continuity of this expression of consciousness, which is humanity and life. But more importantly, what makes us so unique and amazing in the cosmos, is not some sort of formula of you decide to do the right thing because you have some kind of mental notion that this is right. No, just the fact that we can actually be that way is so superb and incredible. that we can actually be decent, loving, caring. This is the part of consciousness that seems very peculiar and particular to us. It's been a bit longer, but I'm sort of reflecting on the whole thing that's going on around, and people prophesizing and proselytizing and coming up with a lot of different ideas and reasons and having everything at their disposal. We have research, we have computers, we have technology, we have everything. But what we lack is the heart to survive. For whatever reason, this has been escalating to the worst possible point. And I think we're at a tipping point. We can either reverse this drastically and kick the Akhenatans out of our lives forever. It'll be done for them. It'll be done forever. Or it'll be a capitulation. And the capitulation means whatever is going to be left is going to be just god-awful brutal. The mutations, the appearances. If you look at the children, the Chernobyl children, the pictures of these people, it's devastating to the psyche to see this, how we allow this to be actually perpetrated on another life form. And it's the children, obviously, because they're the most vulnerable, and you have other animals and creatures, and people that rationalize this away are the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst, the ones that rationalize. I don't even, you know what, they're even worse than the Akhenaten types, because to use your mind to side with these self-serving, greedy pricks, when what has a child done to anyone that defends this nuclear disaster? What could possibly a child have done that has thyroid cancer, or is 5 years old and is in children's hospital with the cancers that should not be there? They should not be there. Cancer is it's an old age disease. It happens when you're 90, not when you're 5 years old. How could anyone defend this industry, knowing perfectly well the toxicities from the nuclear industry and all the other chemicals, but the nuclear is the jewel in the crown? How can that be defended? It's not possible. So I'll end this idea. I came up with it because I was listening to some of Michael Tsarian's work on America, actually. He did a great dissertation on the Constitution and the ruse of these oligarchs who set up this place, which is an experiment. America was an experiment to see if the royals could continue their control over everything. If the oligarchs, if the people that were in charge, that have all the wealth, were able to continue this and let the people have a formula that what Lonnie wants to talk about, the social engineering, was so beautifully put in place to hoodwink an entire nation, a huge nation now, a powerful nation, and the people are just going along, and we've all been inundated with the gifts of technology, or we've all accepted that the gifts of technology qualify us as a superior state of humanity. And the greatest part in us, that which makes us human, is the conscience we could exercise, but we don't.